Hello, welcome back, and as always, I hope you're doing well. Right, before I start, guys, a little bit of good news for a change. I'm back in the YouTube partner program. Yep, I applied yesterday, the 12th, and I woke up this morning with a lovely email saying I'm back in the partner program. So I'm going to have to be a little bit careful from now on, because the last few videos of mine have been demonetized for obvious reasons. The fair use on YouTube is completely shot to bits. Still good news anyway. As you know, I've been digging into the soundtracks and music cues from the Bruce Lee films, and the last one I'd done was the Pink Floyd music. Well, I thought I'd go to the last film that Bruce Lee made with Golden Harvest, not Game of Death, The Way of the Dragon, because there's loads. There's absolutely loads, and I thought I'd go through the original album with you, tell you my thoughts. Now, I'm not going to be able to play the tracks, guys, but I have set up a Patreon, so I may do an uncensored videos on Patreon. Now, I know money's tight for everyone, so I'm not going to ask you to join Patreon. Of course I'm not, but I'll still go through all the tracks with you, and I will tell you my sources. Now, one source is this book that came with the Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest. There's every film in there, certainly with the first three. There's a bit called Name That Tune, and it names a load of the songs. So if you haven't picked up and read this book yet, and you own this set, the writing in here is fantastic, and it's really interesting for the film side of Bruce Lee. I mean, there's all different aspects of Bruce that people like. His martial arts, some people like his philosophy. I like all of it, but it's his films. It's always been his films for me that does it. So yeah, that's one source. So Big Boss, Fist of Fury and Way of the Dragon have their own little chapter called Name That Tune. Well worth a read, and it did help me out with this. And the second is a website called Martial Arts Music Wiki, and they broke it down really well for me. Now, there is a few tunes in Way of the Dragon I couldn't find out where they come from. When Bruce and Nora are walking around Rome, and you know the water goes on him and he looks at the fountain, couldn't find that, but I found a lot, and it's quite interesting stuff. So let's make a start with the original LP. Now, the original album was released on Tam Records on the 10th of February 1975, and it's got 10 tracks on it. Some good, some not so good. But one thing I could never understand, considering they was released in Japan, there's so much English dialogue. It completely baffles me, that does. And there's a lot of dialogue on these, which I know later on, you know, certainly in the 90s with Tarantino, they use excerpts, little bits of dialogue here and there. But some of these Tam records, there's just like most of the track is dialogue and talking from the film and sound effects, which is fine, but really, just watch the film if you're going to want to listen to that stuff. I've owned them years ago for the collection, but to be honest with you, the only records I own are the Big Boss, 2 copies of Enter the Dragon, and I've got the Game of Death soundtrack on CD, because I don't want to hear bang, 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 slap, 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 unless I'm watching the film. Anyway, I digress. So there's 10 tracks on there. Some are in the movie, some are not in the movie, but whatever. But the quality's never been that great. The sound quality's never been that great. Apart from, I think The Dragon Arrived in Rome, you know that do-do-do-do-do. That sounds fantastic. But yeah, so that's the album that you can get. That's the only soundtrack. Now, I honestly would love it to be remastered and put out with the music cues that I'm going to go through with you, and some of the extra songs that are in the film. But I don't know how they'd get away with it now. They'd have to pay out a lot of money, which I know they're not prepared to do. So let's go through it, shall we? So obviously the film opens up with The Way of the Dragon. By Joseph Koo, you know, with the animation of the boat going across the river, the dragon going across, and that is in the film. It's only 1 minute and 56 seconds, but on the soundtrack it goes on for 3.5 minutes. So it opens up with that, and then the next track is Fred Splits from the film The Happening by Frank DeVol. And the first time you hear this is at the restaurant when Bruce orders all the soup. That's the first time you actually hear that song. I can only do screenshots, unfortunately, for YouTube. The second song is The Dragon Arrives in Rome after Bruce Lee comes out, and again that's by Joseph Koo, and it's one of my favourites. It's got a little light comedic theme about it, and it just conjures up Bruce's character. The Dragon Arrives in Rome by Joseph Koo, so that one's the next one in it. Track 4 is More Airport Caper from The Happening by Frank DeVol. They use Frank DeVol quite a lot in this soundtrack, by the way. Might be worth tracking that album out on its own, The Happening. It's got Anthony Quinn in it, the film. And this little bit of music plays is when Tung Lung, Bruce Lee, runs away from the hooker, after she lures him back when she was at the waterfall. I've been there, by the way, that waterfall, and sat on that bench. But yeah, so that is that bit of music as he's running away from her, Frank DeVol. The next track is from Hello Billy Jack from the film Billy Jack by Mundell Lowe. And this music is used in some of the Chinese scenes when you first see the restaurant outside, and then you see Nora Meow and Uncle, and he's got the fly swatting hitting on the table. That music is from the film Billy Jack. Track 6, Ceremonial Dance from the film Billy Jack again by Mundell Lowe. And this plays when the gangsters come round and they're pouring wax on the floor and putting their cigarettes out on the tablecloth, Chinese spare ribs. Well, when Unicorn Chan offers them to go out the back just before the dragon whips his tail and all that lot, as they're walking out, that's when it plays. Track 7 is the Airport Caper from the film The Happening, again by Frank DeVol. And this is when they take Bruce Lee, Tung Lung, out the back of the restaurant by gunpoint. Track 8, You Shouldn't Do That from the film Billy Jack by Mundell Lowe. And this plays after Tung kicks the gangs from the restaurant, tells them to get out. Track 9, The Turn Down from the film The Happening by Frank DeVol. I told ya, they use Frank DeVol a lot. It's worth buying that album just for this. And this is after the hitman has gone round to the house, holding a gun on Bruce and Nora Mao, and he beats him up. And he drags him outside and he throws the gun away, and that's when that music's being played. Track 10, Brooks 50 Cent Tour from the film The Heist by Quincy Jones. And basically this is the boss, the big boss's John T. Ben's theme. And he's just literally a big horn that goes, brrr. And it's as he first turns around with his cigar, that's when you hear this horn. Track 11 is The Transgression from Once Upon a Time in the West by Ennio Morricone. This is the film's cat and mouse theme. When Bruce Lee sees a sniper across the road and tracks him down and all that lot. And it plays again when Tung Lung is looking for Colt, Chuck Norris, around the Colosseum. Track 12, The Desert Trip from the film The Andromeda Strain by Gil Millie. And the first part of this plays when Bruce tracks the sniper from across the road, and just prior to him opening up the door slowly, and then he shoots through the door, misses Bruce, and Bruce comes out and throws a dart into his backside. But just coming up to and opening the door. Track 13 is Chase of Death from the film Hell's Angels 69 by Tony Bruno. And this plays as, when Nora Mal's been kidnapped by the boss, and she says, Tung Lung's going to be here, and he's like, he's making peace with his maker. And then all of a sudden you hear Bruce whistling. As the gang go to get their guns, Bruce throws the darts into their hand. Well, that is when that's playing. Hell's Angels 69. Track 14, As a Judgment from the film Once Upon a Time in the West by Ennio Morricone. And when you first see Colt get off the aeroplane, you hear that bow. That's Colt's theme, basically. Pretty much every time you see him, you hear that boom, or whatever the sound is. Track 15 is Death at the White House from the film Diamonds Are Forever by John Barry. Go figure. You can only hear a little bit of this, but basically when Uncle Wang betrays the boys and stabs Unicorn Chan and Tony Lau, Tony and Jimmy. And there's another bit of music mixed in there as well, and that is track 16, Exogenesis, from the movie The Andromeda Strain by Gil Melly. And this plays as Uncle Wong tells the story of wanting to go back to Hong Kong and it's all our Lung's fault. Track 17 is Hex from the film The Andromeda Strain by Gil Melly. And this plays a little bit when Bruce does Chuck's arm, you know, after he's done them haymakers when he's got him against the wall near the end of the battle. And Bruce Lee breaks his arm and snaps his kneecap. That's playing then. Track 18, Op from the film Andromeda Strain by Gil Melly. And this plays as Bruce actually does kill Colt. Track 19 is the Piedmont Elegy, again from the Andromeda Strain. And the latter part of this song is played after Bruce Lee has killed Colt. And obviously track 20 is the Way of the Dragon outro by Joseph Koo, which isn't on the original album, apart from, you listen to the track My Way of Kung Fu, you know, that narration. Right at the end it's on there, but it's so tinny. It just sounds awful. It gives you earache to listen to it. So they've nicked quite a lot of music from different sources, and that isn't all. But what I did find on the internet, which I found because I was looking around trying to find this, there's a compilation that's been put out by someone called Frakers Revenge. It isn't easy to find. I would love to be able to share it, but obviously I know you're not allowed to do stuff like that. And it's a 20-track LP with most of these songs incorporated into it, and it's wonderful. And it also includes, which I don't think is on the Way of the Dragon soundtrack, the love theme. You know, just before, well, you see it a little bit at the beginning when Nora Miles first takes Bruce when he's in the toilet, and right at the end when Arkun is saying, in this world of guns and knives, wherever Chung Lung goes, he'll always travel alone. That's like the love theme from the Way of the Dragon. Well, that's included on this. So I'm going to show you the cover art to it, so you know roughly what you're looking for. But if you search around on the internet and you're that interested in this sort of thing, I'm sure you'll find it, because I did, and now I have that in my library. So that's going to be my go-to when I want to listen to the soundtrack of The Way of the Dragon, and it sounds wonderful. Obviously it hasn't got the Mike Remedios, and I do like Mike singing, you know, the Big Boss, the Fist of Fury. I love the Fist of Fury, the way he sings that reminds me of Tony Christie. And I do like The Way of Life, that song, but it's not in the soundtrack that I know and grew up with. So yeah, it's quite interesting, but I'll show you the cover to it. Yeah, it's out there, Frakers Revenge, Way of the Dragon. It's fantastic. Now, I was actually making up my own one. I've done the cover, I've already done the front cover, and I've made the back cover up, but I haven't put the track listing on it yet, because I'm quite enjoying this Frakers Revenge version, but it still doesn't feel complete, because it hasn't got the outro Way of the Dragon that I absolutely love as Tung Lung's walking off. But these things really could do with a remaster, in my humble opinion. End of the Dragon sounds incredible, Game of Death sounds amazing, and the Peter Thomas Big Boss, I've got the LP, it's phenomenal. But I think the other three really could do with having a look at. It probably won't happen now, and they probably wouldn't be able to get the license for all of the stuff on there. But you can have a look at it, I'll show you it here. So yes, quite a minefield, Way of the Dragon, Fist of Fury and Big Boss. But this is a brilliant reference, and if you haven't read this book, read it. It's wonderful. It gave me so much information and helped me out with this. But that martial arts wiki was phenomenal. It told me where all the cues were, and I went through the Way of the Dragon, and they're right. They're right. Like I said, there are a few bits of music played within the film that I can't find out where they're from, but that's the bulk of it. So there you go. That was hard work, people. I don't know why I do it to myself, but it might be because I'm a bit of a Bruce Lee nut. And it's something different, it's something new. And like I said, when you play certain songs by Ennio Morricone or Quincy Jones or Mundell Lowe, it literally, as soon as you, And I will put links to some of these that are on YouTube in the description down below as well. So you can literally go from this video and play a couple and you'll instantly recognise some of them. I know you will. I absolutely know you will. Right, now I've got to try and put all this together. I don't know how I'm going to do it because I have got to tiptoe around the copyright of YouTube. I would love to say it would be under fair use if I just use 10 seconds of the music, but that, as far as I've looked into it, and that is a big no-no. So I may do it for me Patreon. I put all my YouTube shorts on Patreon, but I know a lot of you have downloaded them and I gave you my blessing to do so. But I will be doing YouTube shorts. I'll be doing some for YouTube, but the moving posters and stuff that I come up with, I'll probably just keep to Patreon. Unfortunately, my hands have been forced, guys. Right, with that, I'm quite puffed out. Right, if you like this sort of thing, give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the Rambles. It doesn't cost you nothing and it does help me out. And with that, I'm going to bid you farewell. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Much love. And I'll be back with another ramble real soon. Take it easy, people.